are going to be talking about parental mental health. And I am joined today by the lovely Shirley Millar, who is our education manager. And I'm sure you're delighted to be taking some time out of your day to join me, Shirley.
It's always good to talk to you, Catherine.
That's a good answer. That's what I like to hear. Um, I'm sure you're much the same as everyone else. In it started to become slightly more difficult for everybody as lockdown continues. I think we're like the tenth month
Uh-huh,
now.
uh-huh. It is. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of strange how you don't really notice the time passing. It hasn't felt as long as that, even though parts of it felt very, very long. But it's still oddly like time feels very elastic at the minute. It's very surreal.
Yeah.
But you know, at parenting and we are obviously very aware of how huge an impact this whole situation has had on parents. Like it really it's been transformative for some parents and for most not in a good way.
Mm.
um and we just wanted to take this episode to take time to kind of discuss how looking after your own mental health is really doubly important at the moment. So how important do you think it is for parents to look after their mental health, Shirley?
Well, it's probably one of the most important things as a parent we can do, but it's also probably one of the hardest things for us to do.
Yeah.
Um, January itself, in any normal year, is a year when lots of parents will tell us that they struggle with their mental health. With
Yeah.
bills coming in, we've maybe overspent at Christmas, with other stresses, and this year to throw into all that mix, we have to deal with a pandemic, and there is no rule book for that. So just like most people, parents are just working on their feet. They're just trying to find a way to negotiate the best way around it. And sometimes, as a parent, our mental health comes way down the bottom of that list. We're so busy making sure that everybody else is okay, that the children are okay, that maybe if we're working, that our work's okay, that we don't leave very much time to actually even consider how we are and how our mental health is.
Yeah, I completely know what you mean. It's just very easy to let life get in the way.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then it gets to a point where you're quite burnt out and almost beyond a place where you're able to really come back and reset yourself. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
and how do you think that looking after your own mental health can impact your children positively?
Positively. Well, our
Mhm.
children look to us. We're our biggest educator. Every time we put the news on, we're hearing about, them missing out in education and they're missing out in going to school. And while that's all very relevant and all very true, there are lots of skills, especially for coping in life, that children learn from us as parents. So our children are looking at us to say, how do we handle unprecedented situations? How do we cope with stress? How do we even manage our own mental health? They're looking to us, and if we're continuously keeping that stiff upper lip, letting on that everything's wonderful, our children don't feel then, as they progress and they grow into adults themselves, that talking about your mental health is something really that they can do. And as we all know, there's lots of publicity out there, and thankfully, things have changed a lot in Northern Ireland, and certainly are changing all the time. And that it's now okay to say I'm not okay,
Yes,
and our
I
children,
completely
our
agree.
children need to know that.
Yeah, I think that society has really progressed in a really positive way towards being really much more open about
Yeah,
how you feel and how that can kind of impact how you actually behave. And
yeah,
if you aren't able to look after your own mental health and you're maybe not in a good place, it means that everything else starts to kind of fall apart a bit for some people.
absolutely.
Whenever you're trying to juggle working from home and also maybe trying to homeschool currently, because that's a huge impact or issue for parents at the minute, just juggling so many different things all at once. Um, so just trying to make sure that you're open so that your kids can see that it's okay to do that is really important.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think it's really important that our children that we're honest with our children. So, obviously bearing in mind our children's understanding and the age of them and their understanding their language, it's okay to say, today hasn't been a very good day for mummy. And I'm sorry I didn't spend time playing with you today. But I will make up for it, or we will do something special in the next couple of days. And not to beat ourselves up, because we all have days when we cope better than others.
Yes, absolutely. That's so true. What tips do you have then for parents for dealing with the pressures of the pandemic?
I think probably the one of the biggest things is to be realistic about what we can accomplish, not to be judging ourselves by other people and their standards and what they appear to be doing. And of
Yes.
course, social media, while an absolutely fantastic resource and something that we've all drawn on during the pandemic, we also need to be mindful that a lot of the things that we're seeing, particularly from other parents, aren't necessarily the way things are in their home.
Yes,
So,
completely.
I think it's about not judging yourself against other families. Do what you can do,
Hmm.
that's going to be best for you, your mental health, and your ability to parent. Because whenever we aren't looking after our mental health, parenting comes way down the list. We get so focused, we overthink so much, everything seems to be catastrophized. So, it is about being able to say to our children, you know what, we'll do this in the next few days, or mummy doesn't really feel up to that today, or
Yes.
we'll leave that to another day.
Completely. Yeah, taking
Um,
that time and letting them know that you're maybe at your best is
mhm.
definitely a great tip for parents. Because we do all have our good and bad days, and sometimes the laundry can wait for another couple of days, or
Absolutely.
taking your
Absolutely.
bins out. That those things aren't as important as making sure that you are your best self as much as possible, so that you can be there for your children. And you
Yeah.
can be there for them both on the bad days, but on the good days, and try and get
Yeah.
through this all together in one piece.
Absolutely. And our children look to us to see how we value ourselves.
Hmm.
So if we don't put value on ourselves, well, our children won't either.
Yes.
So it's about not feeling guilty if you need to take 10 minutes and go and have a cup of coffee in the living room away from the kids bubbling in the kitchen. As long as your kids are safe, you're entitled to do that. It's
Mhm.
about saying, what, we're going to put some TV on here. Just watch TV for a while. Mummy's going to go and have a natter with her friend on the phone.
Yes.
you know so it's about not feeling guilty about those. I think
Mhm.
another thing that it's really important for us to do as parents is to put boundaries into place. I know certainly when I was a mum to young children, I was the one person when they were looking for volunteers, I would hear this voice saying, I could do that. And then I used to look around and think, who said that? Oh goodness, that must have been me. And that just added to my mental health issues, because then I was under a constant, how am I going to reach that? How am I going to do that? I promised I would do that for somebody. If
Mhm.
you don't do it, there's always somebody else there who's, behind you, who will pick that up.
Yes.
So it's about putting your boundaries in and being assertive and not being frightened to say no.
And also, I think a really great tip for parents is to be willing and be kind enough yourself to also reach out to others, and let them know whenever you're maybe not at your best, so that you can have others help you facilitate healthy boundaries. It is a form of self-care to allow yourself to not be on top of absolutely everything all the time. And especially now, during such a difficult period for everyone, it's important to even be maybe even less productive than usual and be okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
agree with you totally, Catherine. And I think that has been a big change in how people actually view asking for help. Where, a few decades ago, that would have been seen as, a real weakness. Now it's seen as a strength. We all want to do the best for families. We all want to be the best parent that we can be.
mhm,
And if we need a bit of support along the way to do that, well, so be it. In time we will turn, because very often people who are struggling with their mental health, or with stress, depression, or anxiety, are actually the people who are the ones that people will naturally flock to.
yeah.
So other people will come to you with their issues. And I know one of the things that I had to learn was to actually realize and to start and develop a self-awareness around my own mental health. And there are times when I just can't deal with other people's issues, or other people's negativity. And I
Mhm.
know even sometimes I will have to say to my partner, stop being negative about everything, because I can feel my mood being pulled down just by that. Um,
Yes.
so you need to go and find somebody else to have a bit of a moan to, because today's just not a day when I can be dealing with your negativity.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's also super, super important. Just communicating to others what works for you at a given
Yeah,
time is a great thing to practice. And also, I think that if you're open with that, the people that you can communicate to then also feel like they can do that back to you. So
exactly.
it kind of improves your relationships all around because I think, you're all being a bit more honest with each other. And when
Mhm.
your children can see that, particularly if that's with you and, your partner or whoever you're raising them with, that can be really good for them to see and a really good thing for them to look towards in their own relationships in future.
Absolutely. That role modeling is so important. And sometimes we actually think that, particularly our partners, close friends, family, we nearly think they should be able to mind read.
Yeah.
So if somebody says to us, "You don't seem yourself today," what's wrong? The majority of us will come back with that. Well, if you don't know what it is, I'm not even gonna talk about it.
Yeah, completely.
So unfortunately, there isn't any magic wand that has enabled anybody to mind read at this stage. So, it is, as you say, communication's just absolutely vital. And
Hmm.
you don't have to have medical terms or big words to actually explain. You just have to say, today is just not a good day for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything super complicated or even a really difficult conversation. You can keep it to the bare minimum and you're still communicating your feelings and that will still be as much as it's needed to
Yes,
get on with. Um
absolutely.
which is good. Um so we were very briefly touched upon self-care.
Mhm.
They're just in the course of our conversation, but I thought that maybe you would be a good person to ask for some ideas on how parents can practice self-care. We're all very big advocates of, self-care doesn't have to be something really massive or take an hour out of your day. It can be quite short and sweet.
Yeah, yeah. And as you say, there are lots of things, and most of them are learned techniques. They're not things that come naturally to a lot of us. So it is about practicing and practicing.
Hmm.
So I suppose the most simple one is just to be aware of how we're actually breathing, and maybe to do something like a square breathing technique, which would be literally where we breathe in for 4,
Hmm.
we hold it for 4, and we breathe out for 4. And sometimes that can just, particularly, if something's happening, the kids are squabbling, you're just not having a good day, and you're just thinking, I just can't cope with this today. It just gives you that minute to actually take that time to yourself and maybe think, in those sort of seconds that you have, you actually can formulate a plan of how I'm going to come back and I'm going to address what's going on while
Yeah.
they're fighting with each other. So that would be one. For me, I have had to learn to ignore the negative self-talk that goes on in their heads. Sometimes we overthink things so much. And I personally have found it really helpful to develop a positive self-talk, like a wee mantra. And that
Okay.
would be different for everybody. For me, the 4 words that have carried me through the pandemic are, "This too shall pass."
Yes, that's
And,
a good one.
whenever I'm feeling that, things are just really getting on top of me, I just remember that. I just think,
Hmm.
this too shall pass. We'll get through this together.
Hmm.
There are lots of wee 4-word ones. I also find one of the things that I've started to do, which is completely new to me and has only come into place through the pandemic, is going to bed and listen to a podcast rather
Mm.
than being on social media and seeing what's happening in everybody else's life.
Mhm.
And something like I've absolutely fallen in love with that we book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, and that's actually on a podcast, a free podcast at the minute. So
Okay.
most nights I've actually started listening to that, and that's helped me sleep, because one of the downsides of mental health not being so healthy is that we get caught in that whole cycle of looking at the clock every hour. It's
Yeah.
3 o'clock. I've only so many hours until I have to get up again. So
Mhm.
it certainly has helped me with my sleep and things like that.
Mhm.
And also music, and even being out and about and For anybody who knows me, they'll know that, I wouldn't be a walker. I'm waiting for another knee replacement. So walking a big distance isn't something that really happens with me. However, if I do have time to spend with my grandson who's 3, we might
Mhm.
go to the park. We might go
Yeah.
down. I'm pushing him in swings. I'm getting a bit of fresh air. We might go for a very short walk. And that's a great way of actually being energized, because one of the problems when we do have a mental health issue such as depression is actually motivating ourselves to actually
Yeah.
do things.
Completely.
And then we beat ourselves up because we haven't done them. And probably, trying to develop that really positive outlook on life is really the most important. And it's really important for our children too. And I mentioned my grandson there, and every morning when he gets up, the first thing that he says when he looks out the window is, Granny, isn't it a lovely sunny day? And many a day I look out and it's absolutely lashing. And I remember the first time that he said it, and I said to him, No, well, it's not a very nice sunny day today. And he looked and he said, But there's a little bit of sun over there. And I thought,
Oh.
you know what? We can learn so much from our children.
Yeah.
So after that, I just agree with him, and I'll just say, "And where is the sun today?" And I just think it's such a simple thing. But being a parent, we do have joys, along with all the negatives that have come with the pandemic. We also need to focus on the positives,
Mhm.
spending more time with our children, even though there are days when really that doesn't seem like a blessing. It really, really is. The relationship, one of the things I've really noticed and I think is really positive is the relationships that are developing between siblings,
Mhm.
and that's going to be something that stands with families right throughout life.
Yeah.
So it's not things that cost money, it's those things that we just take time to appreciate,
Mhm.
and not feeling guilty whenever we
Yeah.
do need that time to ourselves as a parent.
Yeah. Completely. Yes. That's the perfect thing to end on today. We hope that you'll take that with you after having our listen to us, and that you enjoy the rest of your day. We'll probably be back next month around the end of February. So get to speak to you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.